So we have 12 attendees. We can start. All right, guys, welcome to this webinar on mitigating network uh, risks with Indovision and IP Infusion. We have 𝘁𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗃 from IP Infusion's team, who will be our speaker for this, and will be taking up your questions and giving you the brief about IP Infusion and all of the things. So 𝘁𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗃, over to you.
Thank you, 𝘲𝗲𝗃. Thanks for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Today it is my pleasure to get connected with you and presenting this webinar to all of you. My name is 𝘁𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗃, and I'm working with IP Infusion for more than 2 years as solution engineer. I'm covering India and SHARC regions from IP Infusion and having almost 16 years of experience in this domain. During this tenure, I worked with ISPs, telecom operators, public sector, government, and partners. Okay. So in 2024, IT networking landscape is changing very rapidly. So first challenge with Juniper after its acquisition by HP, even prior to acquisition, Juniper already faced multiple lead time issues. While supply chain issues are improving, Juniper network continues to work through a backlog of orders, experienced a slowdown in order in some vertical for Q1 of this year. We also know a story of Huawei and 𝘄𝗲𝗃. Indian government is strictly, they are not allowing any Chinese vendor in telecom segment now. And TEC, this is some kind of certification and guideline by the DOT Department of Telecommunication, which has to be followed by everybody in the telecom market. But somehow, the Chinese vendor Huawei and 𝘄𝗃 are not getting those certification and hence not getting qualified, and hence all the operators, all the ISPs are under pressure to have the alternate for their network. And there is a big that what do you call, this vacuum is created in the market to fulfill that requirement from these two OEMs, mainly Huawei and 𝘄𝗃. And of course, Juniper is facing the challenges with the delivery time. Okay. So this will be the agenda of this webinar today. What is open networking, where IP Infusion plays an important role? What is IP Infusion value proposition? What is OCNOS, Open Compute Network Operating System? And then we will talk about comparison with Juniper and Huawei of IP Infusion solution. And then finally, Indovision team will be talking about their solution and services on top of IP Infusion products. So this aggregation, concept of aggregation, we see today in the end user segment, data center network. This was already available in the market and now in the telecom network as well. How? So if we talk about end user segment, we have hardwares today from so many vendors. So here you can see we have hardwares from so many vendors like Dell, HP, Acer, Asus, Lenovo. So there is flexibility of selecting the hardwares from these hardware vendors, right? On top of that, we can also run any kind of operating system, that is Windows or maybe Linux. Again, on top of that, based on the suitable application, based on the use case, we can run our applications. So this concept of disaggregation started since 1980s from the end user segment, from the personal computer. Right? Now, the second disaggregation solution comes in terms of hyperscale data center. Since 1990, we see disaggregation data center, where a lot of choices for white box hardware. You can see that multiple choice we can have in terms of compute, storage, and then networking. On top of that, multiple choices of NOS, and then applications which can virtualize the entire infrastructure like VMware, and etc. So since 1990s, we have this disaggregation in place in the data center also. One more important thing, if you have any question, please send it over chat. We have sales engineer also online, so that they will also be answering all of your queries. Right? So we spoke about end user, how this disaggregation started in 1980s, then 1990s. We could see this disaggregation in the data center network. Now, how this is getting entered into telecom network, we will see here. So with current incumbent vendors like Cisco, Nokia, and Juniper, right? We see that from these vendors, if we take hardware from Cisco, Nokia, and Juniper, we see that hardware and software both are from the same vendor, and hence making this a proprietary networking solution, because we don't have choice for the hardware and software. We have to select that combination of hardware and software provided by Cisco, Nokia, and Juniper, and hence making this like proprietary solution. These are of course proven and simple to buy, interrupt, and already working in the field since long. But on the other side, there are some disadvantages of course, like high cost, long lead time, less choices of platforms, and multiple NOS in one network. So for example, even if I talk about Cisco and Juniper, they have different CLI, different NOS for the data center, and for the service provider, they have different NOS. So the customer experience is different, and the NOC team, operation team experience is different in case of service provider or in case of data center product line, if they go through this proprietary network solution. Right? Now, so how this disaggregation entered into the telecom transport versus incumbent vendors like Cisco, Nokia, and Juniper, and in this open networking solution where IP plays an important role. So this disaggregated solution is also time proven, simple to buy, simple to deploy. And apart from that, what value add we are doing, that is highly optimized network builds, reducing capex and opex, and reducing lead time, because you have multiple choices of the hardwares from different hardware ODM vendors. IP Infusion NOS has been qualified on so many hardwares from 𝘄𝗲𝗃. Here you can see 𝘄𝗲𝗃, that's one ODM. Second is UFI space, where we have qualified IP Infusion network operating system, that's common software, that's IP Infusion NOS. We call it OCNOS, Open Compute Network Operating System. And this OCNOS has been qualified and integrated using some SDKs on these hardwares which talk. So these SDKs talk to these hardwares so that the entire network solution can work on that particular hardware, right? So we will see all the hardware and software combinations in the upcoming slides, that how many hardware from the UFI space we have qualified by IP Infusion NOS, and how many hardwares from the 𝘄𝗲𝗃 have been qualified by IP Infusion NOS. Okay. IP Infusion solution ecosystem. One knows experience across all the segment. When I say all the segment, access, aggregation, transport, that's routed optical networking and data center. We have single CLI, single NOS across all the platforms, all the platforms, starting from access to data center, and of course the routed optical networking. Second advantage, we have industry standard CLI. With IP Infusion, you will get advantage of 25 years of carrier grade NOS experience. Since IP Infusion is there in this segment since last 25 years, and OCNOS is compatible with over 50 qualified white box switches and router from 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶 and UFI. So single NOS across all the platform. Second USP, we have open hardware ecosystem, multiple hardwares from UFI space, multiple hardwares from 𝘄𝗲𝗄. Open optics, we have more than 150 optics from 𝘄𝗲𝗄, ECI, Infinera, ProLab. These are the OEM, Skylab, Fujitsu, Lumentum. These are the optics partner. We have qualified their SFPs with our OCNOS. We are not restricting any SFP, and hence, so just to give that feel to the customer, we have enabled NOS and we have qualified so many SFPs on our hardware and software platforms. Fourth important point, IP Maestro. This is our point and click EMS for OCNOS. 24/7 professional support available globally. So customer can log a ticket which over a ticketing portal, and then we have team across globe to handle those ticketing ticket across the globe. Okay. So in this slide, we will talk about IP Infusion corporate overview. So we have, as I mentioned, that we have approx 25 years of solutions in this segment. IP Infusion was founded in 1999 to provide commercial grade hardware independent network of software solution. Our OCNOS product family addresses major networking market, including service provider, data center, and OEMs. So IP Infusion open networking solution delivers a seamless one-stop experience combining OCNOS network operating system with the best of breed routing and transport technology. As I mentioned, we are having 25 years of experience in this domain, having 600 happy customers, more than 10,000 carrier deployment across the globe. And so that's how we are trusted by the 600 global customers across the globe. IP Infusion OCNOS has been validated by the TIP I will speak about in my next slide. This product has been qualified and tested by Orange Global Plug Fest. We participate there and tested our product there. 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶, we are still, so for fourth consecutive year, we are leader there. So I will also speak about those. Okay. So as I mentioned, leader of 2024 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶 for network operating system. IP Infusion announced, here you can see the more center. So this IP Infusion is more towards center of the circle. IP Infusion announced that 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶 has designated IP Infusion leader, outperformer, and platform player for all three of its annual network operating system reports. This is the fourth consecutive years IP Infusion NOS platform has been deemed one of the most complete, mature, and field-tested disaggregated platform available of the 19 of the top NOS vendors. 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶 analyst evaluated OCNOS again outperformed incumbent providers, including Cisco, Juniper, and Arista. And as I mentioned, IP Infusion was ranked as a NOS leader outperformer in NSP, MNO, cloud, and network service provider and enterprise and SMB. All of these segments we covered. TIP. So TIP is telecom infra project driven by Meta. IP Infusion Ognos received telecom infra projects validated solution gold badge. Here you can see that within the open optical packet transport OOPT category. This becomes important because all of the service providers who are looking for disaggregated solution can benefit from knowing that we offer an end-to-end solution with multiple network elements and a real-time deployment scenario with timing and synchronization. In other words, we can help eliminate such delays, lags, latency, and call drops, which is critical for the RAN kind of deployment. So that's where TIP has validated our solution. One is of course DCSG, disaggregated cell side gateway, and second is the routed optical networking under category of OOPT, open optical packet transport. Third, ORAN Spring Plug Fest. We participated in the spring event as part of Plug Fest. We showcased our front-end capabilities, providing mature and stable transport and timing functions. By introducing timing and synchronization functionality as part of our disaggregated cell side gateway or DCSG, we were able to provide grandmaster clock, right? So on top of that, end-to-end L3 VPN, L2 VPN over segment routing is an underlay. Client roster. So here are some of the customers across globe we have mentioned in this slide. So you can see all of the ISPs here. So even in India, we have successful deployment. So I will be talking about those customers, how they are working with IP Infusion, how they are successfully deployed their network with IP Infusion and nodes. Yeah. So as I had mentioned during my previous slide that Ognos, it is one experience across network. You start with mobile access, CSR access, phone access, and cable access, all the access. It may be MSO customer, it can be FTTH customer or mobile operator. We have solution for access router, cell site router, aggregation router, which can be used as PE and P both. And for the BGP peering use case, data center interconnect. And for the data center use case, we can provide DC clause, layer 2, layer 3, multi-tenant, and of course, out-of-band management network, lossless fabric for AIML, ROCV2, and PFC for your automation things. So we talked about mobile access, PON, cable, then aggregation side, you can see that we have products. This whatever yellow boxes you can see in this slide, these are from IP Infusion, right? So after that, this transport, BGP peering, routed optical networking. Towards the transport side, we have the solution, and to our data center, IP Infusion can provide the solution to the customer. Okay. Towards service provider, starting from 32 gig, we have solution up to 14.4 terabit. So let's say 32 gig, 64 gig, and 120 gig can be put into access category. Then towards aggregation, we can start from 300 gig, 360 gig, and 800 gig. And then ease and core, you can find that we have solution starting from 2.4 terabit, 4.8, and 14.4 terabit. Data center side, starting from 128 gig, we have up to 25.6 terabit solution. So 128 gigabit GBPS and 1.0 GBPS for the leaf switches. And then for the spine, we can have 2 terabit, 3.2, 6.4 terabit. And super is fine. We can have 12.8 terabit, 25.6 terabit solution. Okay. So in earlier slide, I was speaking about so many hardwares we have qualified from 𝘄𝗲𝗯 and UFI space. So if you see multiple hardwares you can find here from UFI space and 𝘄𝗲𝗃. So starting from 32 gig, 64 gig, 120 gig, multiple choices you can find based on the throughput, based on the form factor, based on the port, how many port of 1G, 10G, 25 gig, and 100 gig, 400 gig, whatever is required by the customer, we can work upon. So multiple hardwares from UFI space and 𝘄𝗲𝗃. So that's why we call it no vendor lock-in with IP Infusion solution. You have multiple choices of hardwares here from UFI space and 𝘄𝗲𝗃. You have multiple choice of software as well on these platforms, which are so these kind of. So let's take an example of this particular product 950.212s. The same product is supporting 3 SKUs: 𝘂𝗄𝗃 IP-based, 𝘂𝗄𝗃 MPLS, 𝘂𝗄𝗃 CSR. So we will talk about what is the difference between all these 3 SKUs, right? So what is MPLS, what is IP-based, what is CSR? So that is in my next slide. So main point which I wanted to highlight in this slide is that you can choose from a wide selection of aggregation and edge routers, access routers out of these qualified products here. We have huge range of hardwares qualified from 𝘄𝗲𝗃 and UFI, starting from 100. If I talk about port speed, it's starting from 100 Mbps to 400 gigabit. So this 400 gig is kind of coherent, where you can also terminate your, where you can use these interfaces as a transponder. So you can just plug the QSFP-DD and you can use that port as a transponder, and this port can be tuned to carry that particular lambda over your long haul distances, right? Okay. So in this slide, I was talking about that these are the SKUs which are supported on this particular hardware. So how to select these SKUs on that particular hardware? So hardwares can be selected based on the throughput, based on the port, based on the rack space, right? And now coming to the features, what are the things which we need to take care? So IP based, as we can see, we are only supporting layer 2, layer 3 function along with MPLS. VXLAN with EVPN. 𝘂𝗄𝗃 SP-MPLS supports all the function of IP base. On top of IP base feature, we also support carrier Ethernet, MPLS with EVPN, segment routing, and streaming telemetry as well. Next SKU is CSR. So on top of MPLS SKU, CSR supports this timing and synchronization as well. The last is 𝘂𝗄𝗃 SP+, where you can see we have support for 400 gig GR+ also. So you can see little star on here because the hardware support is also needed to have this 400 gig GR+, because the hardware should also support the 400 gig GR port. So there are approx 6 hardwares we have qualified which are supporting 400 gig GR. And we can enable those ports for your coherent module, for your QSFP-DD GR+, so that you can tune the lambda, and after tuning it, we can send the signal over long haul distance, let's say more than 120 kilometers of distances we can cover for your long haul distances, metro haul or POP to POP, data center to data center. Those things we can achieve by this 400 gig GR+, and available on 𝘂𝗄𝗃 SP+ SKU. So that's how this 𝘂𝗄𝗃 SKU plays an important role. So I just go back to my earlier slide. So if you see whichever product is having SP+, right, that product will be having 400 gig port also. So let's say SP+ 800. Here you can see SP+ 800. You will see that this product is having 2 400 gig port here. to 400 𝘂𝗃𝗃. So that's how, if you want to use the same product for your coherent also, we just need to upgrade that particular hardware with SP plus SD. Right? Now coming to data center, you can see multiple hardwares from 𝘄𝗲𝗃𝗃, UFSpace, and Celestica for the data center use case. So based on the form factor, based on the port density, based on the throughput, we can decide that what hardware is best suitable for the customer, for the use case. And again, these are the SKUs which are qualified and which has been tested on this particular hardwares. So we have 3 SKUs on this data center product portfolio. Management is only having layer 2 and layer 3 capabilities. IP-based will have the layer 2, layer 3 along with the EPP and VXLAN, same like the service provider. Then DC plus. So on top of IP-based functionality, we have streaming telemetry also on DC plus. And along with that, if any product which is supporting 400 gig port, which is having hardware is supporting 400 gig port, you can also enable GR optics on there. So this is how this OCNOS SKU works. So here I will talk about what are the OCNOS platforms we have today. So I have already covered that. We have in the tabular form, I have already covered that we have different hardware from UFSpace and 𝘄𝗃𝗃, starting from 32 gig, 64 gig, next is 120 gig. Wherever you see this sign, that means this particular box is temperature hardened. So on UFSpace, that is -42 plus 65 degrees centigrade. And on 𝘄𝗃𝗃, it is -40 to 70 degree centigrade on 𝘄𝗃𝗃 devices. And again, that towards segregation side, 300 gig box and 800 gig box, you can find many of the options. So 24 10 gig, multiple combination of 10 gig, 25 gig, 100 gig, and some of the hardwares we will see in the next slide, which are also supporting 400 gig ports. So which I was talking about, any hardware which is supporting 400 gig will also support SKU SP plus, just to support that routed optical networking functionality, so that you can connect your transport network and carry that lambda into your WDM network. This is 14.4 terabit based on the Jericho chipset. Data center platforms, I already talked about that. Starting from 122 gig, we have 12.8 terabits products. And then towards the RON, routed optical networking, one is the Cassini box, and there are some platforms qualified for 400 gig USFP-DD. You can see multiple optics qualified for 400 gig USFP-DD from Fujitsu, Smart Optics, Hisense, NEC, Coherent, and Ciena. Right? So the reach you can see here. Fujitsu can work up to 120 kilometers. Smart Optics can work up to 480 kilometers. So likewise, we have from Hisense, NEC, Coherent, and Ciena. In this slide, we will talk about how IP Infusion OCNOS we can compare with the Juniper and Huawei offering, right? So IP Infusion providing solution for segment like access, aggregation, edge, and data center. Comparing to Huawei and Juniper, we have more platforms for each solution. So here you can see in access, you will find approx 20 products from IP Infusion. In the aggregation, approx 18 products. In the edge, you can find approx 8 products in big comparison to 3, 10, 6 in Juniper, and in the Huawei 7, 11, 11 and 12. And then in the data center, we have approx 15 products qualified by IP Infusion NOS, starting from 128 Gbps up to 25.6 gigabit. So in Huawei, you can see that we have net engine 8000 series, and of course in the cloud, in the data center we have 6800, and I think 8800 series as well in the data center product portfolio. From the Juniper side, we have MX and ACX series. So if I talk about Juniper, you will see that Juniper MX204 is not supporting 400 gig ZR, which is not the case with IP Infusion. So we have 400 gig ZR support also on our boxes, as I mentioned earlier. So this is an additional advantage on of IP Infusion over Juniper and Huawei. So the same box, which is having MPLS capability, can also work for your transponder and can carry IP over WDM, and single box, and your single box can carry MPLS on long-haul distances as well. The next slide, we will talk about the access router. You can see that Juniper MX204 and then Huawei ATN series. So we have 8 in this. If I talk about access, so first of all, Juniper doesn't have any access router, right? They don't have any product with lower capacity. They just start with 400 gigabit. We have 8 into 10G in access router with feature like, as I here, if you can see, layer 2, layer 3, MPLS, EVPN, segment routing, QoS, timing, and these are the fanless design as well. For timing synchronization, we support Class C timing synchronization standard, which is compliant with 4G and 5G network requirements. So here, this is little comparison of between IP Infusion access router and Juniper. Since Juniper doesn't have any access routers, so I just placed this 400 gig box, that's MX204, and then towards Huawei, it is ATN series, ATN 905 and ATN 910. But here you can see a lot of gap in terms of feature in Huawei series. Only layer 2, layer 3 in ATN 905 with comparison to, if you see the MPLS, CVP and all those stuff. In aggregation router, we have option with 2410 gig and 4 into 100 gig. If you see here, so this UFI space S9530 access based on this particular chipset, we support 20. We have 20 and 24 10G in addition to 4 into 100 gig solution and 2 into 100 gig solution. It is just a 1 RU box with support and 300 gig box supporting L2, L3, MPLS, CVPN, all those stuff. We also have option where you can have 4 into 100 gig and 2 into 400 gig and 24 10/25, where this particular box can be placed for WDM network or maybe IP over WDM, so that further to this, that you can connect that particular box with your MUX, DMUX, and EDFA. Right? Data center switches, IP Infusion gives you 100 gig and 25 gig leaf switches here, right? Here comparing the Juniper QFX series, and in Huawei you can see 6800 and 8800 series switches. So if we compare with these two switches, we have nearest match mentioned here in these slides. So current offering from most of the vendors are very similar, but IP Infusion can also offer AI critical networking protocols such as 𝘂𝗏, and PFC, ensuring that we can also create modern data center fabric for AI as well. In this slide, you can see that 400 gig super spine switches are also there from the IP Infusion. So going beyond 25 gig and 100 gig, even for most modern 400 gig switches, we already have a strong offering from 𝘂𝗏𝗏. And you can see that even with 32 400 gig and 64 400 gig, we have the solution similar to Juniper offer offering. So if you are building the largest scale data center fabric, we can support you there as well. All right. So just recapping my slides. OCNOS, as I mentioned, you can run this OCNOS on more than 50 hardwares qualified from the open networking system. So we have 𝘄𝗲𝗃𝗃 and 𝘂𝗲𝗃𝗃 space, 𝘄𝗲𝗃𝗃 and 𝘂𝗲𝗃 space, where we have qualified all those hardwares from these two ODMs. Open optic system, we have qualified so many SFPs on our system so that you don't have any dependency on that particular. We don't have any vendor lock-in. You don't have any optics locked on that particular hardware. We have number of SFPs qualified on our NOS so that you can select those optics and you are good to go with those optics. Centralized monitoring and management, as I mentioned, ipMestro. This is a EMS for monitoring of your OCNOS, 24/7 professional support available globally. And then, so beyond cost saving, what additional advantage customer can get? Of course, future-proof technology. OCNOS is networking, is standard-based NOS, and is backward compatible with most of the existing network solutions available in the market. So if I talk about the existing vendors available in Indian market, Cisco, Nokia, Juniper, Huawei, and 𝘄𝗲𝗃, we have successful interop with almost every OEM available in an Indian market as well. We have successful deployment, which is running in the network. We have so many POCs already done successfully. We have closed that. And of course, we are discussing with them for further deployment. So then, of course, simplified licensing. Whatever license we are giving, it is perpetual license, which means there is no additional license need to be procured by the customer to enable or to enhance the code capacity. So let's say what other vendors generally do. To upgrade 42 gig to 100 gig, they need a license. But in our case, from the day one, you have all the license available in the device itself. There is no additional licensing mechanism with the OCNOS. There is no feature license. If we have BGP today, you have BGP. So you have BGP from today itself, once you get the perpetual license. There is no additional cost of any of the features to enable it. So, and hence, no licensing, that is just a perpetual license. Eliminate vendor lock-in. As I said, we have multiple hardwares qualified. You have choice of hardware. You have choice of software SKU with IP Infusion as well. And of course, finally, by our solution, you avoid supply chain uncertainties, right? OCNOS-based solution have reportedly enabled IP Infusion customer with much better control and visibility over network upgrade and deployment times. Yes, so this slides talk about our successful deployment in India. We have done successful interop with existing vendors like Huawei, 𝘄𝗲𝗃, Nokia, Cisco, and Juniper towards the MPLS side. And towards the RON side, if I talk about the EDFA, if I talk about the MUX demultiplexer, we have successful integration with 𝘄𝗲𝗃, Infinera, so that it is not only the greenfield deployment, even in the brownfield deployment, we have the successful interop, we have the successful deployment, which is running at customer place. So customers are using OSPF in their network for IGP, and on top of that, MPLS LDP with RLFA, RSVP FRR, and on top of that, they are using layer 2 VPN for their customer services. So these layer 2 services can be VPLS, VPWS, EVPN with single homing and multi-homing. So here, if you see this, these are the transit node. So you can also use the boxes, the IP Infusion solution as P and P kind of deployment. So which means you can use the OCNOS as a access router, aggregation router, or maybe in the core if the throughput is not that much. At the same time, customers are also using our product, which are also supporting 400 gig and 200 gig on for your coherent. Customers are also using those products in their core, which means some of the customers, Indian customers, are running their network, are running their core with our IP Infusion solution, right? So this is in addition to the service provider, as I mentioned, that we have 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶. This is one of the product which supports 200 gig per lambda, and one solution is 400 gig 𝘂𝗲𝗯𝗶 plus optics. So we have approximately 6 products qualified from UP Space and 𝘂𝗲𝗄, which supports 400 gig 𝘂𝗲𝗯𝗶 plus optics. So the solution can work in point-to-point, point-to-multipoint, or it can be ring, it can be mesh. So we have successful deployment for our Indian customer. They are running our boxes in the ring, and one customer is running their core in the mesh topology by using our IP Infusion NOS solution, having mux, demux, amplifier in between, and connecting multiple cities across northern part of India. So they are running their network successfully for more than 500 kilometers. So in summary, I would like to say that yes, we have successful deployment. Customer are trusting on us. They have deployed our solution even in their core, not even in the access or aggregation. We have successful deployment in their core as well. I think that's my last slide. Thank you all. Further to this, I would like to hand over this webinar to Indovision team. Thank you all. So 𝘄𝗲𝗹𝗹.
Thank you, Rinkesh. It was an enlightening session. I think I wanted to take over this conversation, and Ravindra Jumle is with us from the Indovision team. He is look after the north and west sales from Indovision, and would like to request if he can add something to it.
Thanks, 𝘄𝗲𝗹. So, hi all, Ravindra this side from Indovision Services. Thanks, Rinkesh, for your wonderful session. It was a very helpful, and we have engaging with our customer with the IP Infusion products. And as a Indovision Services, we can help you out with the BOQ preparation and with the professional services, and we can do a solutioning designing as per the specific requirement, if it's with respect to data center or with respect to service provider IP/MPLS network, or whether it's a ISP heavy routing BGP kind of requirement as well. So look after you for the support requirement or solution requirement from your side for any access, aggregation, core, or data center kind of solution requirement. Of course, as Indovision Services, we can provide you the solution based on the IP Infusion solution, what we have discussed, and what Rinkesh has given a wonderful presentation on these slides. And we want to just help you to extend this solution for your customers for their requirement. So, 𝘄𝗲𝗹, this is from my side. If we can go for the.
Thank you for adding your input, Ravindra. And if anyone have any question, we are open for any kind of Q&A sessions and all. And Rinkesh and me and Jumle is taking up your questions. So if anyone have any question, please feel free to write in the chat box.
Hi, 𝘄𝗲𝗹. I see one question. There is people asking, what other references do you have in India? I think it's Rinkesh can answer for this one.
Yeah. So that's correct. So
Okay.
as I mentioned, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sir, okay. So
Yes, Rinkesh,
we
you are
have,
audible.
yes, so we have successful deployment in India. So Spectra, Fastway, Extreme, and one of the PSU is also using our product in their core, as I mentioned, in the full mesh topology, and their core is running on our solution. So they are running 200. They are using our product called 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶𝘃𝗀, where they have connected their core and using the same product for their MPLS and along with the IP over WDM capability. So generally what happens and what advantages they are getting from our solution, that generally what happens, customer generally put two box solution, one for the transponder and second for the MPLS. So when I say transponder, it is kind of layer one solution and one for the MPLS. So what happens in overall, this increases the cost in terms of CapEx, in terms of OpEx. So when I say OpEx, of course, if you need two boxes, you need to have two rack space. You need to have two power supply, more power consumption, more cooling. That all are the operational stuff. Apart from that, the team who is sitting in the NOC, they need to manage two boxes at the same time just to troubleshoot if there is any issue with the network. With our solution, they are getting this advantage that, as I mentioned, in terms of cost, one is CapEx, second is OpEx, and third advantage, of course, they are getting in terms of management. So as I mentioned, that we have single box solution. So of course, in terms of management, it is very easy. And third, they are running MPLS also on that box. So I mean the flexibility they are providing, that's we cannot compare with anyone. So as I mentioned, four customer Fastway, Extreme, Spectra, and that one of the PSU, they are running successfully their core between intracity and between intercity as well. As I mentioned, more than 600 kilometers of network is running on our off-nodes. So that's the solution customer are trusting on us. Does that answer?
Yeah, Rinkesh, I think should be answering the question. I don't see the feedback for this.
Yes, that covered a lot.
So I can go back to this slide if you can see. So
Yes.
so you can see this one, right? This P router is our 𝘄𝗲𝗯𝗶𝘃𝗀 box, which is, so here multiple lambdas are connected. So here the deployment is like that. They are connecting in the full mesh and running 200 gig core in their network and connecting EDFA in between, so that EDFA and multiplexer and demultiplexer between these networks, between these boxes, so that they can get the 600 kilometers kind of deployment across their network. And after that, they have these boxes for the broadband aggregation, so that services coming from the customer are aggregated on these boxes. And then when IP traffic is coming from this box to this PE node, it will be aggregating all those services coming from the customer and handing it over to the transit node. So as I mentioned, that this box is not only working as a MPLS node, but it is also working as a IP over WDM box. So tunable optics, so any colored optics which have been qualified by IP Infusion can be plugged here, and customer is good to go to connect their OLS system, optical line system with our box. So there's the beauty of our solution, that in a single box, customer is getting two services in a single box solution. So hope that makes more sense now. Any further question?
Thanks, Rinkesh. I think we are all set with the wrapping up. We
Yeah.
have covered most of the questions, and it was an enlightening session. So one more thing, I want to again announce, if anyone have any questions, please feel free to add, or we can just wrap it up.
Ravindra this side. So just wanted to add on the product performance side. It is a world-class products if you compare to Cisco and Juniper and Huawei. IP Infusion products are world-class product. We just want the chance to do the POC or just have a requirement from your side. And Rinkesh, when we had engagements with the customer has come with the question is that if he is having a spare SFP with him of existing vendor of Cisco, Juniper, Huawei, or any third-party SFP, can it will be a work with the IP Infusion boxes because it's not tested and qualified. What is the process for the existing SFP if it is having in the spare pool? Can he used in the IP Infusion boxes?
So yeah, Ravinder, generally we don't restrict any SFP because any SFP which is MSA compliant, it should work, right? But still we suggest that to get the SFP qualified by our engineering team, so we request customer if they are having such kind of SFPs deployed in their network, so we request customer to send that to us and we can get that SFP that particular SFP qualified.
Yeah, I think it sounds good because customer want to reuse the inventory what he is having.
Yeah. Sure. Yes, I don't see any other question.
All right, so I think we can wrap this up. Thank you everyone for taking some time to join this enlightening webinar, and thank you Rinkesh, thank you
Thank
Ravindra
you. Thank
for
you,
taking
everyone.
your time to educate our customers and taking up the questions. So thank you. We will soon launch another version of this webinar, and we will see you there on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.